Hey friends, welcome. Today we are going to make a quiche together. I am just preparing 3 zucchini here. I take off the ends and the tops. I'm going to grate all 3 of these zucchini until they're all done, and then I'm going to wrap them up in a cheesecloth and squeeze the juice out. The cheesecloth is from Azure Standard. It's really nice and it's not been dyed or bleached or anything like that, so it's nice to use. I will link all the Azure Standard products I mentioned below in case you guys are interested in them. Azure Standard is a company that I get a lot of my bulk food and organic items from. You can reserve this juice to make pasta with later, but I didn't do that today. Some other day I'll do that. You can freeze it and save it for later when you make hand-cut noodles or Italian pasta. I put the shredded zucchini into the skillet just to dry it out a little bit more. I put it on medium-high heat and I added a little bit of pepper for some flavor. And I just sauteed it for a few minutes until it seemed like it wasn't steaming anymore, just to dry it out more effectively. Here I am slicing up 2 yellow onions from Azure. They're organic. I am going to caramelize these for the quiche and make them all sweet and delicious and caramelized to add more flavor to the quiche. Please excuse my messy stove. I had already cooked a meal that day, so I was just waiting until I was done making this quiche to clean it. This is Azure's Rumiano butter. It's so good. I'm using the salted version this time. In the bowl, there's 2.5 cups of flour, 2 tablespoons of sugar, and 1 teaspoon of salt. I'm cutting up 1 cup of butter to put into the mixture. I'm cubing it today because I want big pieces of butter in my crust. Cubing the butter adds more texture to the dough. If you want a smoother dough, you can grate it. If you want a more flaky textured dough, you cube it and gently work it into the flour. I was using a pastry cutter just now to work that butter into the flour mixture. Now I'm adding ice cold water into the bowl, about 2 teaspoons at a time, just to make it come together. I used about 1/4 of a cup to 1/2 cup here. It just really depends on what consistency you like your dough. I just do it until it just comes together. I'm pressing this all together into one form, and then I'm going to saran wrap it and stick it into the freezer for about 45 minutes to help that dough cool down and come together for when I need to roll it out. I got the crust out of the freezer and I'm breaking it in half to reserve half of it for the next pie crust that I make. I'll make this quiche again probably at the end of the month, and I will already have the crust made. I'm just rolling this out into a big circle so that the edges hang off the side of the pie dish when I put it over top of it, so I can make a nice tall crust. Now I'm just folding the crust edges under and pulling them up to make a high crust on the sides. The pie crust will sink down in as it cooks and it will be level with the pie dish. Next, I get a piece of parchment paper and cover it with my baking weights. I just used lentils that I had. And you stick it in the oven at 350 degrees for about 40 minutes. My caramelized onions are done, so I'm going to take these off of the heat and add them to the bowl of shredded zucchini and the herbs I picked from the garden. There's basil and oregano that I chopped up and put into that bowl. Here I am just putting the pie crust in the oven for the first time for 40 minutes, and now I'm taking it out after it's cooked for 40 minutes. I remove the parchment paper and the beans, and I'm going to poke holes into the entire bottom of this pie crust. This ensures that the pie crust does not balloon up and make the filling overflow in your quiche. I then put the pie crust back in the oven at 350 degrees for another 20 minutes. Here I'm adding 5 eggs and 3 egg whites into a bowl. I'm adding 1/3 cup of oat milk here. You can add cream, but I just used the oat milk that I had in my refrigerator. Here I'm whipping it up, and I'm about to add the caramelized onions, zucchini, and herb mixture. I added only half, and I reserved the other half in the freezer for my next quiche, so that the most time-consuming steps are already done. Here I'm adding about 1/3 cup of pesto to the quiche mixture. This adds a deeper, richer flavor to the quiche, and my family really enjoyed it. This is Azure's raw milk white cheddar. It's grass-fed. I added half of the block, which is 1/2 cup, to the quiche mixture. It added a really nice depth of flavor, and I will definitely do that again. As you can see, when I tried to grate up the cheese, it kind of crumbled apart. That's because I froze it first. If you don't want it to crumble apart and you want nice shreds, keep your cheese in the refrigerator first. Here I'm just getting the extra quiche mixture ready for the freezer. I'm also adding about 1/2 bag of pre-cooked sausage to both the quiche mixture and the mixture that I'm sticking in the freezer. I got the pie crust out of the oven, and now I'm adding the quiche mixture into the crust. I'm sticking this quiche in the oven for about 45 to 50 minutes, and this is what it looks like when it's done. It was super delicious. Everybody in my family loved it. It was a make again dinner for sure. I served this quiche with a salad that I made. It had some chicken on it, and the crust held together beautifully. As you can see here, it was a beautiful quiche.